All right. Sorry about that. Gee, that light is horrible, isn't it? I need sunnies in here. Okay, so in the tunnelling theme, we won't want to bother you too much more with tunnels. There's only a few of your specialists out there to actually do tunnels. But tunnels don't always have to be tunnels. Tunnels can be all types of different things. So I'm just going to give you a quick rundown on the simple tunnel creation, not using the MTF to do it, because there's one that you can use a tunnel file to make a tunnel, and then there's another one where you can make a tunnel, snip it, take it in the MTF and do the modify. I'm just going to show you the simplified version of creating a tunnel so that when you get back to your office, you should be able to do it fairly simply. Okay, so I've got in this view here, I've just created something simple that you'll be able to do. Hopefully create a circle. I've just created a circle, created it to a superstring, and then segmented it into 4 different segments. The other thing that I've done is I've just given it Vertex Text. I'm not sure you designers will know how to do that, so I will just, sorry to insult you, but my simple way that I do add Vertex Text, I hit F2, click on it, onto the vertex, right click, hover out, and go to text. Then you can go around, skip, and add Vertex Text. Then you can do the same sort of thing, F2, pick it, right click, go to thing and annotate. And then you can annotate the Vertex Text, which is what I've done there. All right, so that's the simple bit. The options under the design, volumes, what would it be under volumes? Design, tunnels and structures, create edit tunnel file. So here's one here. You pick a center line that you want to run the tunnel down. You can fill out the chainages or you can leave them blank. You can choose to run the tunnel perpendicular or just run it vertical. So depending on what you're trying to build is depending on what you'll pick there. The reason why I've drawn this circle is then I could want to make a profile. So instead of having to type one in, I can select one by importing it from a string. So I'm just going to pick the string and I hit import. And if I go into my profiles, you can see that now I have a profile. It gets the name of the profile from the string name. So I've just called this profile 1. And then it's given it the names that I had on the Vertex Text. So A, B, C, D, and I'll chuck a letter E in there as well. And then I give it a file name in a second. But before I do that, so that's my, my profile. So I just hit set. Then I go to my assignments and I'll say from chainage 50, I want profile 1. And then, to chainage 1,000, I want profile 1. Set assignments. So it's for something simple like that, where it's just a straight profile, that's as simple as it is. You can do offsets, heights, rotations, all sorts of crazy stuff with these things as well. But just for the basic stuff, I'll just show you this. So yeah, then you'd give it a file name. I'll just show you this one that I've already done. Profile A. Oh, wrong one, this one. Yep, so I've just, this is the other thing, I set the offset range to 5 meters. This is just so if you do get into other parts of 12D to use this, when it cuts sections, this will be the maximum distance that it cuts sections. So it's important when you're using 12D field, how far it's going to cut the section, if the tunnel loops back on itself or something. Okay, so that's your tunnel file, pretty straightforward. Then to create the tunnel, once again under design, tunnels, create tunnel. You can either have a tunnel file, or you can attach the tunnel definition to the center line as attributes. Where that's important is if you're working in a job where you're sharing data in and out, instead of having to share the files, you can just share the center line and all the attributes are all built into the string. So it just makes it a little bit easier when you're sharing data, but I'm just using a tunnel file here. So I've just said I want to use the start chainage of 200 and chainage 200. Start chainage of 50 and 200. I'll push it out to 1,000. And there's my chainage increment. I'm putting my profile strings, so they're the ones that run around the tunnel. They're going on a model called tunnel sections, and the strings that run along, I've called them tunnel strings. And the Trimesh that's going to be created, I've called it tunnel Trimesh. And I just say that I want a closed Trimesh, and I don't want the end caps because I want to be able to see through the tunnel. So I just hit create. I've got the clean models beforehand ticked on. Hopefully it goes quicker. That's why I only had it set to 200. All right, that's done that. So here's the tunnel profile, and I'll turn off these beam rings. So that's what we just created just now. And you can turn off the sections. And then there's the strings, and then there's just the Trimesh. So pretty straightforward, and you can find any use for that. Doesn't have to be a tunnel, could be a headstock, could be anything. So I did a shaft, a vertical shaft going down for one of the rail guys, and it was good for that as well. So that's the tunnel profile. If you have any more questions, you can either ask the tunnel pros that you've seen plenty of talks, or you can ask me if you're really desperate. Now, sorry, I'll just see what we've got next. Sorry about that. The next one that we're going to show is the Kerb Pram Ramps. So this is still under development, and we've been talking to the guys who actually use this stuff. And me being a surveyor, I only know so much about pram ramps and the standards. So I've just been going off what other people have told me, and I hear different things from different states, different countries do things differently. So the idea behind it, I'll just bring up my recalc panel, so save a bit of time here. Edit function. So it's create ramps. I've just given it a function name, and I've just got this desired CL strings. So these are my strings that are running here that I've drawn in here that I want pram ramps on. And then I've got my curb strings that I'm going to be cutting through. And then I've got these settings in here. So if I click onto here, I've got my ramp seed name. So it's going to be ramp and then ramp 1, 2, 3, 4. So these are going to increment in number. Then this CL name is the name of the string that runs through here. So I've got there 1.2 wide. You might have another one 3.6, whatever, and you can have them all different names. And then you can justify whether the center line is in the middle of the ramp, left or right, and then the name of the curb string that you're going to be cutting through. So I've got KIL, KTL, KBL. Then you've got the ramp width, the ramp grade, and at the moment we're using wing angle, but I'm going to add in the ability to say the offset. Apparently other guys don't use angle, they use an offset distance. You'll probably come up and say, well, you do something totally different again. But yeah, we'll just go with what I've got here so far. So I'll just hit OK. I'll set and OK. And process. And cross our fingers. And then we create ramps now. What's this one's name? That's because I got that one as 3-point wide. So if I want to add another one in, so all curbs. And this one, I'll make it the same name as that. And I'll make it 3 meters wide. And 30 and 30. Oh, did not work. That's all right. So the great thing is you will be able to just grab the string here and move it if you decide I want to move my pram ramp there, and hit process, and then it will automatically rebuild the pram ramp. So it's definitely going to be a lot quicker. Once we're done speccing it out properly, I'll actually build the Trimesh of the pram ramp, and also create strings through here that you'll be able to modify to as well, because you're going to want to modify your strings or remove them where they need to be as well. So that's the pram ramp in the development stage. So hopefully we can fix up all the bugs on that one. So that's pram ramps. And then the next one is the construction utilities. So I gave you a sneak peek yesterday of the attributes, being able to set attributes to strings and things like that. So once you have attributes, and this was driven from the survey side of things, the guys go out and survey a pit, and then they actually put the depth on of the pit. So I've got these ADAC stormwater pits, and they're just single point strings. They're just symbols there. There's nothing fancy about them. And if I F8, I've got some attributes on there. So this is a pit, rectangular, length, width, and at the top it's got this depth here as well. Okay, so if I open up my function on this, surveyors always shut down the recalc panel. Edit function pits. So this is under, in 14, under BIM, Trimesh, create service chamber many. Okay, so I'm using stormwater chamber as my model to search, and then this ADAC stormwater pits. Some of the attribute paths can be quite long in ADAC, so instead of having to type them in, you can select a seed string here and pick and accept the string, and then it will populate a list of all of the attributes on the string. Then you can copy and paste them as you need them. So custom pits are any shape that you can draw. It'll build a pit from that, and all I need for a custom pit is a depth, the depth attribute. And then you've got circular, so I just need the diameter and the depth. Rectangular, I need the length, width, rotation. Rotation is optional, so you don't have to have it. Your pits will all be pointing north. And then the depth. And then the extended pits are like the pill-looking pits. So you have a radius, extension, rotation, and depth. Then I've got a prefix for my models down in here. And then I do want to just put this onto another model, because I've actually done a bit of work and I don't want to blow it away. So I just hit process, and I go into my perspective view and turn on demo, and then there's all of the pits that it's created. Once they've been created, we've also made it so that the pits can be edited afterwards. So under the BIM, Trimesh, create, there's service chamber on its own. So I'll show you how to use this in a minute. So if you want to, you can one at a time go around and create a pit one at a time. It also has the ability to edit them. So if I hit edit, I can pick this one here, and it knows it's an extended pit, and I can change the depth to say 5, and it will make the pit bigger. I can change the wall thickness to 0.3, and you can change the floor thickness, and you might want to make it less hungry when you write it out to IFC. So if I set this to 0.1, it'll look kind of ugly. So yeah, I set the default to say, I don't care about data size, so I just set it to 0.1 millimeter. So yeah, you can build just about anything that you can draw. So same as this one here, if I, so I just hit finish. Oh, you can also rotate them and translate them as well. So if I go into plan, I'll turn on the demo model. So if I rotate, I think it was this one. Yeah, so you can rotate the pit around as well. So that's the service chamber. If I just create one manually, so I'll just turn off the demo pits, and it'll just go onto a model here, so we'll just call it new demo. So here, whenever I create a pit, it's going to get all of the attributes, all the properties from the CAD control bar, and any attributes that are in that set in the attribute control bar as well. So just to turn that on, view, toolbars, attribute control bar. There's nothing in there, which is good. Just like to check that sometimes, otherwise you end up with a whole bunch of attributes on there. So when I want to create a pit, I come down here to say rectangular, and I'll say the length 1, width 1, that's fine. And I can type the depth in there. So I'll just pick and create a pit and put it there. Okay, so that's the depth, and if I go Control Z, but this time what I want to do is when I create the pit, I actually want to get the depth from the pipe, from the lowest pipe here. So I'm just going to find out roughly what the height is here. I should have my stormwater pits. So this will have the height on it. So in the settings, you can say use pipe for depth, and I pick my model of pipes and the search distance from where you pick. So I'm going to say just search 2 meters within there and get the lowest invert level. You have to be careful sometimes if you put a number too big, because it will actually jump onto the end of this pipe and get the other end down there. So just don't put the number too big. Okay, so if I hit this one, oops, sorry, pick a branch, rectangular. And then it'll then get the depth. Middle mouse button is killing me. All right, try again. Hit the enter key, that you know that works. So then now if I edit it, edit, and then you can see there it's got the depth from the pipes. So if you're that way inclined and you want to go and individually create one at a time, be my guest, but I would usually like to use the function where it globally creates a whole bunch of them. The other thing you can do is if I come down into a view here, and I'll just make a large pit and large. Turn this one off. So if I draw I'll just draw a rectangle with width and height. So I'll just go -1 and space 0. And I'll make the width, say 2, oh, come on, 2, enter, 2, enter. It's a pipe string. Sorry about that. Go again. I'll just guess. So you can build whatever shape you like. Then you can also then, if you want a lid or a hole in it, you can put some holes in here. This might be at the top of the pit. Now, I don't know if you've ever used the hole function inside 12D where you add a hole to a string. So I use over here, add, or CAD hole add. So you pick the parent string, pick the child string, pick the child string. So now this is all one string. Those 3 strings are all one. So I come into my custom pit, I pick this as my pit, and I pick the base coordinate. This might be a set out point here somewhere. Okay, so then now if I go into my, which one? Design, must have been this one. And now I want to put one of these pits here. So I pick here. Got me with the middle mouse button again. Don't use middle mouse. So if I go into my 3D view and turn on large, right. Now I did manage to put it on the same model as my other one. There he is. So it's actually cut out the top of the, if I turn off those demo, it's actually cut out the tops of the pit there as well. So anything that you can draw and add a hole to, it will build a pit shape from that. And then, like I said, you can also then go edit it and change any of the wall thicknesses, or if you don't want that string, you can pick another string. Or you can say, oh, I didn't mean to do that. It's actually a rectangular one, and it's 1 meter by 1 meter, and it will turn it to a rectangular pit. So you can model up some services pretty simple with that type of stuff. Now to get even more pedantic, what you can do, now I've got all of my stuff here. Now, if I go to, did I put it under, this is not on the menu yet, so Trimesh subtraction, and I can pick mesh pipes. So from this pit, I want to remove that, and process. And turn off those mesh pipes. And it then goes and cuts out all of where those pits belong, or all of where those pipes belong. So ideally, we'll try and automate that a little bit more. Maybe you could pick a model of pipes and it search it, or the thing, and it will search around and then do it automatically for you, so you don't have to go and individually pick each pit. I've also done that down here for a manhole that I've created as well. Sorry, not a manhole, a head wall, and I've cut out the ends of the head walls there and put them in there. So that's the modelling of services. There's obviously way more with pipes that we probably don't have time to ever go through, especially today. Now I did write this one out to the IFC. Quickly show you this. How we going?
Yeah, fine.
It's my turn to go first today. Sorry? Culvert? Oh yeah, yep. Oh yeah. Yeah, so then there's it all written out to the IFC with all the things cut out, so. Yep. So that's what we've done with the services, and these all should be the chamber element and whatnot. All right, so next, I'll go back to the tunnel one. Talking to Chris, was it yesterday, from the project in Melbourne with the tunnel. So he had something, I didn't get, it was a pretty quick slide, but he had something like this in his tunnel segment that they had to go out to Revit to model the tunnel segment. So this is the same sort of thing as what I showed you before with the hole. So I've got this one string, and if I turn on, go back to my settings, and say draw the fill there. So this is one string with the holes cut in it, just by creating a string, go add hole. Then under BIM again, Trimesh create, we got Trimesh along a profile. Okay, so my profile is going to be that, and it could be a whole bunch of strings. And then my reference, I'll just pick this simple string here and put it onto this model here and clean the model and process. And if I go and turn that on, there's that one there. So whatever you want to add in, you can add in any holes for pipes, conduits, whatever you need, you can just put them in there, and it will just cut out all of those holes as it extrudes it along. So we're going to show you some more stuff with Pete when he gets his turn, where you can do a lot more than just that. Now, I did have, and couldn't quickly find it, so I'll just quickly draw it for you. Go back to here, go to shapes. Let's just do something by freehand. Sorry, I'll be quick. I'm being messy, but that's all right. It just shows you how you can be as messy or as neat as you want. And so I just go to my profiles, pick that, and now I get that. So whatever you can draw in plan, this thing will extrude it along the strings. And you can draw, you can insert strings in here. So insert, and then I can move that point, vertices. Maybe. I may have locked it. Move it, and profiles. And if I'm really keen, I can actually run them both down that string. And pick my center line. Go BIM. Clean, process. And so you'll get whatever you want there. So yeah, that's something that we've been working on, so that hopefully less and less reason to go out to Revit. Just quickly, the other thing that we've been doing with the guys with the tunnels. So this was a segment that was created. I just modeled this all in 12D, this segment. And then I've placed it at 0, 0 and a 0 rotation. So in the tunnel, they set up, as they want to turn the tunnel, they rotate the tunnel segment and it's thinner on one side. So as they push forward, it goes through the dirt easier. So they just rotate it around and then it allows the tunnel to turn. And then as they do that, the machine stores the location and the rotation of that tunnel. And that's all stored as a file. And so then I read the file and then I can place the segments along wherever I like. Now, I can't remember if I saved a layout. Let's hopefully. Yep. Okay, so that's the panel. So because there's actually 16 possible positions this thing can have, and so just say position 1, this is the rotation for position 1 to 16. And then it will then rip through and create the rings. It could be quite substantial, so I won't run the whole thing. I'll turn this remove all and turn on BIM. So if I come into here, so that's every segment placed. I've also got the small run on there as well. Turn off the small ones. So that's every segment then placed along the string. And if I use my inquire, project management, settings, use, I've got rid of my VNT rings. I had a super inquire so that when you picked on it, it gave you all the attributes. I'll just go old school, hit F8, and there's all of the attributes that were in the file that has all of the information about when it was placed, the ring type, the ring orientation, everything, every bit of information. So when they write this out to BIM, they've got every single bit of information about how that ring was placed, even down to like they've got like a barcode that on every single segment, and they know what time it was poured, how it was poured, who poured it, every single thing about the segment. So it's actually a pretty intelligent system, and it is a really simple CSV. Now I've got to wait for Excel. Oh no, the fine print. All right. So yeah, that's the thing there. So I only look at a couple of these segments ones, so you could get rid of all the other stuff and just use the ones here that have the placement and do whatever you want with it. See if I can quickly find this other one. All right. I can't remember where I did it. I'll find it later on. Yeah, but that's, you get the idea with the shapes. I did have another one with a footbridge, which was quite nice as well. I've got to get a better naming convention so I can actually find my files. So I'll hand over to Pete, and Pete's going to cover his thing. Now I have to duck out to the water room, so I won't be able to stick around for the full time for that as well. Over to you, Pete.
All right, thanks, Paul. Okay, when people say you're talking in front of a large crowd, you're supposed to imagine people in a certain manner. Put these lights on, I can't see anybody anyway, so it doesn't make any difference. Right, so the advent of all that sort of stuff was forced us to have a look at basically fences to start with, and how we could use these things that Paul showed with extrusions and all that sort of stuff, and create typically the construction fences. And as usual, when you do something that starts after like that, it ends up becoming something totally different than what you started with. So we quickly changed the words posts and infill to node and link to match everything else in 12D. If we looked at the old extrusions options that we used to have for running down to creating fences and lots of stuff, that old the furniture one that we had years ago, it used to do extrusions similar to what these Trimeshes are, and used to have interval posts as well, which was great. You could specify an interval, and it was locked in the file, but the interval was there. But when you put the fence down and everything, it never obeyed where directional changes were. It never allowed for corners and things like that. And you couldn't adjust the interval and all those sort of things. So it did actually convert under the BIM 12D objects to Trimesh. It did actually convert, but it lacked all that sort of ability. So we took some of these options that Paul was working with. So under the Trimesh, again, under Create, we've got two options there, Trimesh Node Link Create and Node Link Apply. So the idea is that the Create one brings up this. So it allows you to do a preview of the type of fence that you're going to create. Now, remember I'm saying fence, it ends up being, as we go through this, a process to create whatever object you can come up or think of, really. And so it quickly becomes something more than just a fence. You've got copies and pastes, and you can create new ones and that sort of stuff and name them. So under here, there's a whole option of different fences, and you've got a working folder and all sorts of things to be able to go to. Basically, we just got a node and a link. So node, again, you think of as being the post or the upright type thing. You can go preview and pick a string and then run preview. So basically, what the preview thing is for, you can pick any string you want, really. I originally had a sample string that was only about 10 metres long and had a couple of verses on it. But then I quickly found out that it wasn't a real world string. So when I started to pick real world strings that went up and down and bent and all over the place, it then showed a few problems that we had. So we worked our way through that. So I've left that pick option anyway, and you'll be able to pick your real world fence string, surveyed or designed, and it will be able to create the fence for you. It's only a preview at the moment. The idea is this will write it to a file for you. So where you saw Paul pick that shape and that sort of thing, you can draw wonderful shapes, and I will show you a few on that. But once the job's done, that's it. So this allows you to save all that information about that shape in a file. So you can then go and apply the fence or anything that you build to any string. So here at the moment, it's just creating some posts. If I go to my node here and I say, look, okay, I want to put some extra things in there, you have choices. So the choices range from a rectangular shape to a circular, so if you're doing footings or any sort of surface. You can do a sphere, and we'll look at some of those later on. You can do a profile, so you can draw whatever shape you want in plan view at positions at 0, 0, and 0, 0's the origin of what you expect this shape to go along. And you can also do footing. You can also read in a 12DA file. So if you do start to hunt the website and find nice OBJ files of fancy looking lights, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to place, you can read into 12D and then convert the OBJ file to a Trimesh, and then this thing will place it for you. When you're using files, obviously you've got to go, it's got to be somewhere logical that everyone can access. So normally it might be your user library that you would have that in. So if I went to the circle and I picked the active button there, and I've got choices. So if I say it's a 0.45 diameter, you can pick thicknesses and colour and so forth as well. And I've got an option to do height here. So if I turn around and say I want that to be 0.6, and I want it to be a minus 0.6 offset, and I go preview, it'll then turn around and do the footing for me. So the idea is that height and vertical offset allows you to position something there and then move it down afterwards, wherever you want to go. So you can create as many posts as you want. So you just go and create a new one. So you could have a corner post that was bigger than the ones you want to use in the intermediate posts. So you can have different shapes and all sorts of things. So you could have lots of different posts that belong to the same style called fence, whatever. And then when we go and apply this, you can then put different posts at different positions. So you can say either start, end, intermediate, or by vertex number. So at the moment, it's just showing you a display here, and you will then be able to write out to the file. I probably will add it's styled on the old extrusion one under BIM visualization. There was a profile one in there that used to build the shapes for you, and it had an option there to keep the model. So at the moment, that's a temporary model. As soon as you close the panel, it disappears. So it might be worthwhile if you just want to do something really quick and keep it. You might be able to have a little box there to say keep model. But at the moment, the idea is it's supposed to write out to a file and that you can use in any project. So once you muck around the posts, and obviously we've got a whole lot prepared before. So you go to the link part, and if I turn that on and go preview, the link part now looks at the same sort of thing you can have for the infill. That's what we refer to this as, or used to refer to as that. You've got a rectangular horizontal, rectangular vertical, circle horizontal, circle vertical, profile and path. So the idea there is that one there is just a rectangular vertical. So it's looking I'm looking at doing palings. So if I wanted to go the other way, it'd be a rail. And if I wanted to do circular bars and that sort of stuff for weld mesh fence, you go to circular. The circular one does get a little bit heavy if you're doing small diameters and you want it to look good. So you may find yourself when you do a few wires and things like that for construction fences that you probably make it rectangular and maybe 10 mil by 10 mil. So it doesn't take up so much time or points in your data, of course. So here you're basically picking a size, again, a height, and you've got a spacing. It will automatically work out the spacing for you. Okay, so you don't have to do that. All you have to do is just say what your spacing was. Obviously, I'm using a 100 mil wide paling with a 125 mil, so at least I know it's going to work. If you do put in 100 mil space, now they'll look like one big panel, but it's up to you to put a logical value in. So it will go and work out, no matter wherever those segments are, no matter how long they are, it'll always work out and space those palings at the right number for you. If we turn off that and then turn this on, we've got this one here is solid panels. Okay, so the only thing I didn't do a spacing. So I've just said the panel's a certain size and it will go and do that. But if you look at it there, you'll see there's actually segments. It's 2 panels per fence segment. And how did that work? So that works under these extra options. So the extra part allows you to divide the segment up into whatever, either into 3 basically. So it means if I can do this, it has a start, mid, and an end, and a length. So at the moment, it's probably easier if I turn the other one back on. So if I actually turn this on, the first one, and say 0.5 for that, 0.5, and that, and you can change all that around as well. And I'll go preview. Sorry, turn it on, will help. Right, so you're able to do that. So what it means, it'll divide it all up and palings will still go and work out the number of palings that you're supposed to have. But this one works in reverse. So this one here, when you pick it, it activates and uses these as my start, end, and middle. But if you don't tick these boxes on, and you go to here, it does the infill in the middle of those 2. So it does these parts rather than the other one. So it's very handy, especially when the middle bit is unknown. So you might know the 3 start bits, the start end might be a metre, but the segment might be a different length. So those middle bits between the 2 might be a different length. So you never have to put that value in. So you can have 2 different types of panels that match like that. So you can also go to things like profiles, and you see I've got a lot of time in my hands. So if I go and pick the profile and I activate that, and I pick the railing, and Paul's syndrome with the middle mouse button, I think. And I go set, and then preview. So basically, it then runs along and creates the paling, the rail for me. Now you have total control over that thing. Obviously where you draw is where it draws, but you can also then shift it up and down by the offsets if you feel it's not quite the right spot. But the idea is you'll start drawing a lot of profiles, like I did with that one under the panel, and things sitting where they're supposed to sit. So things like that and all those sorts of things. So you go and if you put another profile in, as we're only just showing you how all this works. If I go profile again and pick that, not too sure, maybe it might be disease. So if we go over that one, it's done that for me. So as goes the fence, you've got those options to be able to then, as I said, like save different profiles for intermediate fences, for construction corner posts that are larger and got bigger footings, and all that sort of stuff. So obviously in these ones here, you've got other types of fences that are got different options on them. So the preview button just allows you to preview them. Actually, it's not a bad little tool. So you can just go and pick through and have a look at all the different types. That one there is an interesting one. I got a PDF file from Rod at EXDS for the New South Wales fence guide, and they had hundreds of them, and they all had different things like panels and little bits and pieces and wires up the top and wires down the bottom. And they had things like this, like obviously bent. This is for things like this. This is a chain wire option. I did draw the line at creating all the chain wire. And I thought it's getting a bit carried away. So panels like that, we just give the blend value and make it slightly see-through, so that so when it goes to somebody, you really don't want to see every bit of chain wire in the whole job. But that one there had barbed wire. It had a projection up the top for the chain wire and different footings, and quite complicated. And then it had panels to stop animals from getting in and out. And that was interesting actually, because I can't see anybody, but if you put your hands up and some of the animals that the New South Wales government puts up fences for, besides normal stock animals like cows and kangaroos, whatever, they put one up for an animal called a fiscogly. So does anybody here know what a fiscogly is? Oh, neither did I. And but it's in their standard drawing. Now I got a fair idea what a green-thighed frog is, and that also was in there. So they had fences that were for keeping them either in or out, I gather. So I was quickly wanting to find out what this fiscogly was, and you can have a look at their drawings. So both, I gather, are endangered. But if you look at this picture here, this is a fiscogly, and that's obviously the green-thighed frog. So one looks a little bit more endangered than the other. So that's what a fiscogly looks like. It actually came up on the internet as, I don't know if it's true or not, as the hardest word in English and to pronounce. So next time I'm at a barbecue, I'll be throwing that around. The idea is that these fences, even though you might think to yourself, you know, and I found myself looking at all the construction. I did some work with some of the construction guys here, and you realise how many fences they have to do. And then when you start to drive on the highway, you really bore your wife to tears by saying, looking at all the things, and you say, "Oh, look at that! That looks really good." And she's going, "What are you talking about?" And so it is really a sad life. Life, I said, not life. So basically, this is the sort of thing, and it isn't trivial. You know, like there is quite a lot of those construction things that you have to do, and bicycle-friendly ones that are quite complicated. And obviously, they're all BIM orientated and all the attributes you want to set. And we've been through that before, showing you all those things. So it's good to be able to do it. And it's good to save it to a file. So now you can just go bang and put it on. One little, not a drawback, but one thing you have to be aware of, and when I first started about these posts and things like that, is that they're a user-defined interval. The profile string I picked was only just I just drew it. So you will have to segment your strings and be a bit more controlling about what strings you do profile this along. Because every string that's got a vertex, it will do a post. So if you grab a string out of your apply menu that's got half a metre intervals, you'll get a post at half a metre. So you've got to be able to produce the strings for the fences with a little bit more care. So there are options under here. We'll probably look at maybe a couple others the more I think about it. But under the strings edit, there's a segment strings. I never knew this was here until Paul told me. So you just basically pick a string and then type in a value, and it will segment it for you. So once you've segmented it, then you obviously got vertices where the posts are, and you drape it onto a surface, and you get a level. So you can't just take any old string with any old verse. You've got to work out where you want your posts. We will try and look at it's not an easy thing to do because a lot of times you grab something, you may just draw a post on a boundary of a road, and normally it's a big long fence without much change in direction. Then you might go over at a different angle. So you draw that string as one big long straight, then you divide it up into segments, and that's what you use. But if you are using apply many ones, you may have to have a little bit more think about which verses. We are going to toy with the idea of you possibly being able to define which vertex you want to post at, maybe something like that. But at the moment, you'll have to do the actual work. So that's pretty well how these things work. So we'll have a look at the fence again. So the Skogli fence. So we've got the preview option there. You've got a bicycle fence like that. Okay, so those sorts of ones there. The only thing I had to draw was the profile of the bar bending at the top. All the rest are just horizontal, vertical. That's all it is. And the little balls at the thing, they're a sphere. Now Paul did a sphere for it, and I said, who the hell's ever going to use a sphere in 12D? And other than trying to explain the geoid thing of 2020. But it actually did come in useful pretty well straight away. Right, the next day, I think I had to do that fence. So it was pretty handy for that. And we also used it for the traffic lights that we'll show you in a moment, where we needed to do the light of the traffic light, which is a sphere globe, it's pushed downwards. So we had to muck around with that, and then we cut that in half and then translated, factored it, and got it to look like a light. So there's two things I use the spheres for. Right, so when you go and run these things, so once you've got I'll show you some of these things afterwards, but when we have a look at this, so we end up with lots and lots of fences. So underneath the BIM, we can now go to the Trimesh again, and it's all under Create, and it's Trimesh Node Link Apply. So it actually allows you to apply the fences. And again, you've done some work on the actual segmenting of the strings that are available there. So you've got there's the string, yeah. So we'll have a look at this one here. So we'll profile our furniture string. And I think that's an F08 one. Yep. Right, so it's an F08 fence. Okay, so the model is going to be that one again. And what you're asked for is how you want to apply the posts and all that sort of stuff. So in this case here, you might turn around and say, look, I want the corner post, and I only want it at the start and the end. And the wire and panel, which is the infill part, I want that. So it will then turn around and run through, and only, if you can just see with the other fence the other way, you can see it's only done the end posts. So the corner ones I wanted, okay? So now you can turn around and say, well, I wanted the ones in the middle to be a different post. So now you can turn around, I don't want that, I've already done that part. So I can go to here and say, look, I want the intermediate post, and I want every vertex in the middle, and I go, don't clean model. Every time I go to process, someone yell out, tick that button off. Because if you clean model, then you lose all the other one. So it'll turn around and do that for you. So it's got different footing, and all that sort of stuff. So you can have the intermediate posts. And so you will be able to go and add things on start, end, and even a vertex number, or just all posts. A lot of times you'll just say, I just want to do the whole lot. So you can work your way down these sorts of posts. They're all done the same way, and they're all saved off to the file. So you've got all those bicycle-friendly ones, type A, type B, all these type fences. So every one of those fences that the New South Wales government wanted, you can do. You can do palings of that. Okay, so that one there, I picked the shape, which I just drew the paling, and then I went through the same process I did before. I did a post, footing, a rail, I picked the shape, and then and there's an option in there to rotate the paling if it's not the right way. So like you can make it 45 degrees, 90 degrees, and it will then do the paling like that for you. And again, if it's got a spacing involved, it will work out where these are supposed to sit for you every time. It won't, you won't have to worry about that. So when you get to you can even do these ones. So those ones there is just a strip footing. So you don't go to the post part, you go to the link part, and you just say I want it to be so wide and so deep, and it will then do that strip footing for you. So you can not only do those ones that are construction, that are bits of stuff, if you want to do something a little bit fancier, and you can do things like that. So again, if I go and pick this guy over here, and I look at the mesh fence, and I'll put it onto a model. Right, so here I've got post and footing. I want it on every post. And here I've got mesh. Before I do that though, I want to set some other attributes. So when I go to the attributes, I go down to here and I set what type of IFC it is. Okay, so it's an overriding, I actually forgot to show you, but in the creator, there was the same attribute box. So you could pick an attribute and store it in the file with all those fences, all the things that belong to it. So you can do material, coding, whatever it might be. This is like an extra bit of information that says what IFC type it is. So when it all goes to the IFC federated model, all the information's there. So you just say IFC railing, set, and then it stores those attributes, and then you go process. It'll then turn around. There's a few little flashing things there. We've unfortunately got to do a few little transformations and rotations, and at the moment we're just panel prompting. So hopefully we're going to be able to get rid of that, and if anyone that's a bit sick of looking at that thing flashing already, which I am, then you can go from there. So it's got all the information on it. Then you've got ones like this with a little bit more involved. We'll go and pick a guardrail type one, and one guardrail. Right, so I've got a post. Now I want the posts to be intermediate, right? So, but if I look at my plan view, it's a guardrail, and there's a couple of points that I don't really want to post at, okay? Because the reason why is that it's a W beam for a normal guardrail. So I want the beam to look nice. The string that represents the beam itself, I want it to look really good, right? Not too segmented, but I want so I've got more vertices than what I do need. So I'm able to then turn around and say, don't do a couple of them, as I can also say, add ones in. So in that case here, I can turn around and say, I want the intermediate ones, but I mightn't want 3 and 5. So I can go into here and I can say 3 and 5 and say remove, and go set. And I can go down to here, pick the rail, and I can go process. So I go back to my view. What happened? Guardrail. I must have given it a different name. Right, this one's a 12DA file. So that post there, well, we'll throw the terminal on, then I'll say my thanks to Brendan Mallon. So when I go to here and delete that, and I go back to terminal, or I just delete the whole thing in that line. So I go terminal, and I want it to be at the start, and I don't clean the model. I haven't fallen for that once yet. I process, I get the terminal. Right, so the posts and the terminal are 12DA files. Okay, so I pinched those from Brendan. So when you do the main roads installation and you run their culvert, their option to do the guardrails, they create a nice little Trimesh for you, and I thought, that looks really good, I'll have that. So I grabbed the post and the terminal. He had a few more other things like bars and all sorts of things, and that was a bit too much, so I deleted a few of them. But that's the idea. You can then go and position that 12DA file, and that's where I reckon a lot of things will happen, is with the 12DA file. So you position it where you want. Naught's where you expect the origin to be, and the orientation of it is where it's supposed to be, because it will actually look at the string that I picked and work out the perpendicular rotation for the 12DA file. So all you have to do is draw it yourself, or grab an OBJ from the internet, and then bring it to 12D, convert it to a Trimesh, and you've got some fancy looking thing that you can add to your fence and so forth. So that's how the place works. So it does allow you a fair bit of flexibility, and even in that case there, for just doing the different fences. And you see, you reckon I've got time on my hand. Brendan did. It just gives you an idea of what the fence, and this is how it all started, was doing fences. And then obviously we got a little bit interested in doing other stuff. Right, so Paul showed you a little bit of the shape he drew, and that tunnel shape and everything. So you pretty well started to think, well, we can draw shapes for anything. Then we thought, well, I can draw a bridge shape, I can do whatever I want. And with the combinations of that extrusion of this shape, for want of a word, along a string that you create, then you can start to add the fences in. And the fences can be railings for your bridge, they can be piles, they can be anything you want. They really, that's where the word, or the post, really doesn't become a fence anymore, it's just an upright. So you can start to think of building more and more things rather than just a simple fence. So the curator there, in that case, you would just turn around and again go into the create, and we just go to that, and again we pick our fence, or I keep on saying fence, I should get our link, or I see it, whatever. So I go to here, and if I go, at the moment I've got all these different profiles for a bridge, but if I go to bridge demo, which has nothing saved in it, or nothing much. So I go to there and I say, okay, if I go to the link and I delete that, and I want to be able to go and grab all these, and they're all individual strings drawn with the solid shape. They may have holes like Paul talked about, but either way, you can go populate. So you can go rectangle, drag that out, go set, and then it'll grab all the shapes for you that you just had and go preview. So it'll create that for you. So all that stuff that where Paul had before, it's now in a file. So you can then turn around and plonk this thing anywhere you want, not just limited to the one project. So if I looked at that and I went back to the original bridge, that's the bridge created from the file. So it's obviously not just one string, right? You've got the decking, and you've got the headstalks going the other way, and you've got 2 strings for the railings. So it's only 4 strings you have to create. And the railing strings are the only ones that the vertices make a difference in, because that's where the posts are going to sit. You don't really care how many vertices you have for the decking unit. If it's a bridge that looks like this, it'll follow that shape. Whatever shape string you pick, it will follow. Obviously the decking unit, so you've got that sort of thing happening. So for the decking unit, that was part of the profile. So instead of before, when I asked to pick what vertices I want to put a post at, I was able to say those 2 vertices, not the end ones. So I was able to get the pile where I wanted them. So if I look at the, I suppose a bit of speed is up. Then it got more and more fun, was how could I turn around and then start to look at not only the fence type thing and profiles like that, could I be more adventurous and have a go at more complicated bridges? So if I go and pick the bridge strings here, so these are strings that you've got to have, and again they're vertices. These ones are the decking units and the handrails, and again the centre of the road, I didn't have to worry too much about the vertices because it just formed it. But for the railings, I had to be a little bit more careful about what I wanted for which versi was where. So I go and grab the bridge arch, and I'm going to put this on 12D bridge. If we run out of time, I've got one prepared before. So if we don't want to turn that off. So I go to supports, and now the supports for this bridge, the supports coming down like this, right? So I've got the string that goes over the top. I don't want supports every single vertice. So I'm able to say which ones I want, just like I did with the guardrail. Now I was outside and I wrote this all down, and then lost a bit of paper. So luckily I wrote on my mouse pad. So I now need a new mouse pad. 34. And I can go add. So I go set. And what I want the arch profile. And I go there and I go process. So it turns around and does that for me. So now I can turn around and go, well, I've actually got some extra things in here that I want to do. So I've got a string that's got the verses where I want them. So I go into here and I say, okay, I want to do a bridge struts. So now I turn around and I go, for the struts, there's no post, but there's a strut. I go process, it does that for me. I think I might have picked the wrong string there, but anyway, it should have been shorter. But anyway, so now I go down and I pick the centre line of the bridge, and I say I want that to be a bridge deck. The bridge deck itself has no there, but it does have a decking unit, and I go process, and it creates a deck for me. It's also done the line marking that obviously isn't there normally. So we're very quickly going to go to one I prepared before, but again, I can then go to the fence and stuff like that as well. So if I go to the model that contains the bridge railings, and I grab bridge railings, and I say I want a post and a plate, and I want panels, and I go process. It'll then turn around and now do all the railings on the side of the bridge, because I've already put those verses where they're supposed to be, and it will turn around and create all the bridge for me. So probably just, I'll leave this last one. This one's pretty good. So I grab that model. And these are all the little wires that went up and down, and bridge wires. I think that's him. Bridge. I think this is just wires. Right, now, takes a little bit longer, but and it actually had to draw the turnbuckle, so that length of that string had to have a turnbuckle here, one in the middle and one at the end. So that was just like that fence I showed you where I divided it up into 3 and joined the middle bits. That's all it was. It's only 2 commands. So what it looks like is that. So you end up with the turnbuckles. So that one's a half metre, half metre, half metre, and the bit in the middle is whatever's left. And that's how it works. So when you look at that sort of thing, you can then look at the process of creating a little more complicated things. Well, I suppose that's pretty complicated. I mean, more of the things you're used to doing. You don't do too many bridges like that in your backyard. But if I go to the model here, and I pick up the bridge, and I pick up concrete barrier, and I say I want a profile. Now it'll run through now and do the concrete barriers. So it's it's on a string that's more like your design strings. Okay, so that one's come by and it's got a lot of verses. I don't care how many verses it's got on it. Okay, it's just to shape this one, so you don't have to worry too much about it. But the one that you really have trouble with is the one where you've got the steel barrier that's the same shape and you've got a light in there. So you're able to do that as well. So what you're able to do is simply just go and grab another model. So you see I've drawn those strings on another model to make it a bit easier for myself. And I go into here and I grab a light barrier, and I say I want a light, and I want it at the intermediate vertex, and I'll explain why in a minute. I want profile, and I go process. So it will go through, and the string that I've drawn, that little tiny orange string you see there, has 3 vertices on it. Okay, so it's only supposed to be, I'm not too sure what they are, a metre long or something. All right, so, and the good part about that is the middle verse is the light. So I'm able just to go bang, it'll take that shape. That's a see-through shape, it's the metal, not the concrete barrier. And the traffic light, not traffic light, the, what do you call it, light, is like that. So you zoom right in there and you've got that. Now, so, you know, that's worth a fair bit, I reckon, because all that problem, all you have to do is just draw the string. So whether you've got, a lot of you guys are really good at the MTFs and stuff, I've seen some pretty good stuff here over the last day or so. So if you can work out a way to get those strings in another model, another layer with the right vertices at the right spot, then you'll be able to pump this out pretty quickly. Admittedly, like I said, like it's all part of process or post-processing. Whether or not we go to the ability to do functions and all that sort of stuff, I don't know, but this took long enough to do without going to that part. So then you can go to things like this. So if you go and grab a freeway centerline and say, I want to do a road profile. So I've got no posts on my road, but I do have a profile. I can go process. So it created the entire road for me. So I thought this was an idea that you could draw whatever profile you wanted of your roads, you know, and it could even be a subdivision job with a combination of at 0-0, a typical cross section, for example. You could have service pits, corridors, all sorts of stuff, and then you could do a concept of what this is all about. And you could just run this thing down every single road, and it would then do all the profile of the road, all trimeshed up, and you know, it's not a bad little result to see if something's going to work. I also thought about if you did the bridge. It doesn't have to be a complicated bridge like that, but it can still be a bridge. And then you can use the clearance mesh for vehicles and things like that, so you get a good idea without doing much work. You've only really done a couple of center lines, a few points, and just drawn a few general profiles, and you're able to get the road. We did on a I lost the subdivision, but anyway, so we did on a subdivision. It did every single road instantly, and all the curb returns simply by this file. We just did a model and ran the whole job. So those tri-meshes are there, and you can do stuff with them without running MTFs or absolutely anything. So you end up with, oh, that one there, I suppose. Which one it was. Here's the one we prepared before. Right, so so that part there, that's all straight out of that file, the whole lot, except for the tin mound on the side there, but everything else is out of the file. So just a matter, I had to draw, yeah, there's probably about maybe, I don't know, except for those wires, there's probably about half dozen models, dozen strings that did that entire job. So I'm not saying it's an answer for, you know, it doesn't do super elevation, doesn't do all that sort of stuff, but gee, it's a good start for a quick concept plan to be able to get something going. Whether or not you take it that way or not, it's up to you, but you can build from that builder pretty well any shape that you want, and you know, it's only limited by your imagination. So the actual fence, where are we? This one here. Things like that. That's out of one file. It's actually one string, the whole thing. So the picture I showed you before, that was the fence and the road and all the stuff. They were all picked out of the file, told what to do. This little breezeway thing was a PDF file out of the internet. The cool thing about the PDF files like that, if you read them in 12D under the 2D PDF, if it has holes in it, 12D joins it all, it makes it one, that Paul showed you before, it makes it one shape. I didn't even do that. It just came into 12D. I thought, that's great. And I picked it, and then it had all the holes. So I didn't have to do anything to it at all. So you can do lots and lots of stuff. The only other thing left, we're running out of time, is the traffic signals. So, so basically they're all been BIMified. So under the BIM Trimesh, you've got the traffic signals. You can now, every single one of these is now a BIM object, has all the information on it. This is what I talked about before about having to do the little LED, that little guy in there. I suppose I shouldn't have said Brendan had a lot of time. But so that's the thing that was squashed, the actual shape, to make it look like that. The 12D had an option there to cut the Trimesh in half. So that's what we did. And then we just changed the factor in the Z direction and flattened it. But you can position all these things, all these lights and things like that. So basically in the signals, you can come into here and you can say, look, I want the model, 12D traffic signals, and say I want a mast, and pick a point on here, and it automatically puts out the mast for you. And then you can go and say I want so this is really, the old one did this too, the one that we did for the billboard one that did all that sort of stuff. So you're able to then turn around and look at these lights. You can rotate them like that. You can pick the whole thing and rotate it all around. Okay, so all the lanterns work with it. You can rotate the lantern itself rather than just the posts there. So being in the signals, then you've got the footings and all that sort of stuff. We've got option to replace them, so you can turn around. Might be pushing my luck to see if this actually works. So if I go and pick that, and then say replace, and I pick that one, it replaces the lantern. Okay, so it remembers exactly where the other one was, so you don't have to go and redo it again. You can just say I want to replace it with something else. So there will be a command for assembly. So you will be able to do all that, the lights like that, and then say I want to save that somewhere. I'm sick of putting them all on all the time. It's a general one I want. So you'll be able to save that as an assembly off to a file, and then place your traffic lights quickly wherever you are. They're always a manual thing. Traffic lights are never a boom like that. You've always got drawings and angles. You have to face the lanterns, and that all goes across to BIM and to IFC as well. So all the attributes that you want, but it's a proper Trimesh. So I hope that gives you a fair idea of what we've been doing, and hopefully it's useful for you. I think that was the end of the thing, or close. What time did you finish? That's it, isn't it? Yep. Okay, see ya.
Familiar sights. We shared some history. This town